How to be a ventriloquist, Part 7.
This is the part of the video where Doug plans something funny to do with the puppet.
That's right.
However, he has failed to do so. Therefore, I'm going to rescue him by singing a song.
You are?
I sure am. I'm going to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Well, I'm sure that'll be nice.
Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, she threw him out the window, the second-story window. With a hidey-ho and a hefty throw, she threw him out the window.
Well, that was enlightening.
And you can do it with many nursery rhymes. Peter, pumpkin eater, had a wife and couldn't keep her, put her in a pumpkin shell and threw her out.
Okay, all right, I get the idea. Maybe we should just get on with the tutorial now.
Well, suit yourself. I've got more where those came from, though.
Oh, boy. In this video, I want to talk to you about two fundamental difficulties that beginning puppeteers tend to have with puppets. The first difficulty applies to both hand puppets and the traditional slotted jaw ventriloquist puppet. The second difficulty applies primarily to hand puppets. After that, I'll cover a few nuts and bolts of performance with puppets. Difficulty number 1 is getting your hand movement synchronized with the changing of the syllables. I've worked with a lot of puppeteers over the years, and probably the most common telltale sign of a beginning puppeteer is leaving the mouth hanging open when the speaking is done. This is actually a symptom of a bigger problem, getting confused about when to open and when to close the mouth. It's surprising how something that seems simple can really confuse people. I've seen puppeteers who open the mouth and then close it immediately, and then don't open it again until the beginning of the next word. I've seen puppeteers who hold the mouth open for the entire word, regardless of how many syllables there are, and then close it again at the end of the word. But the most common thing is this: opening the mouth at the beginning of one syllable, then closing it at the beginning of the next syllable, and then open it again for the syllable after that. We all know that's not how it works, but somehow the brain and the hand have a little disconnect going on there, and we do it that way anyway. And that's how we end up with the puppet's mouth left hanging open at the end of the sentence. So when you practice mouth movement, here is what I would suggest. First of all, don't try to do it without moving your lips, unless you've practiced that enough that you can do it without even thinking about it. You need to have your attention on the puppet's mouth, not your own. Second, just like you did when you were practicing the exercises in previous videos, stand in front of a mirror and watch the puppet. Third, speak very slowly and make sure that your hand is opening at the beginning of each syllable, closing at the end of the syllable, and then opening immediately for the next syllable. The puppet's mouth will be open much more than it is closed, since the pause between words is small, and there is essentially no pause between syllables within a word. And by the way, you don't even need a puppet on your hand to practice this. Take it slowly, and as you get accustomed to the look and feel of the motion, gradually pick up speed. Now, you might think, but wait a minute, I don't close my mouth on every syllable, and that is true. If you think about the word banana, you fully close your mouth only for the B sound. So that's one close for a 3-syllable word. However, there is still motion, the jaw moves slightly, and the tongue flaps around. Your puppet probably does not have a tongue that flaps around, so the only signal you have that the puppet is moving to a new syllable is the motion of the jaw. So do a full close on each syllable, and it will carry the illusion just fine. Okay, here's the second issue beginning puppeteers usually face. The instinctive way to open a hand puppet's mouth is by opening the top half of the mouth. It is actually much easier to lift the top with your fingers than to lower the bottom with your thumb. But if you open the top, the entire head goes flapping backward and the puppet's eyes may not even be visible to the audience anymore. The opening and the closing of the mouth should work the same way a human's does. Open your mouth and you will realize that your lower jaw dropped rather than your upper jaw rising. But when you do it with a puppet, it feels awkward at first. I encourage beginning puppeteers, if they're sitting at a table, to put their hand underneath the table with their fingers pressed against the bottom of the table. And then, with the fingers immobilized by the table, open and close the thumb downward. And just for kicks, do it while you're talking to people so you can practice the mouth movement, timing, and no one will even know you're doing it. Related to this, it's good to have a sense for the angle between you and your audience. It is very common for puppets to look as though they are looking straight over the heads of their audience. So I tell puppeteers to imagine that their puppet is talking directly to someone in the front row. If the puppet looks at the front row, people behind them won't feel left out. But if the puppet looks at the back row, people in front will feel like the puppet is looking over their heads. They may not even see the puppet's full face very well. Beyond these two things, your interaction with the puppets should be common sense ideas. If either you or the puppet is talking to the audience, the person addressing the audience should be looking at the audience. When you're talking to the puppet, look at the puppet. That has the added benefit that some mouth motion may be hidden from the audience. And similarly, when the puppet is talking to you, the puppet should be looking at you. However, most of the time you will not be looking directly at the puppet and vice versa. Most of the time, both you and the puppet will be looking partly at each other and partly toward the audience. This is easier to maintain if you picture you, your puppet, and the microphone forming an equilateral triangle with both you and the puppet looking towards the microphone. Yes, I know. Since the voice is coming from you, the microphone should be in front of you, right? Not the puppet. But having the mic centered between the two of you actually helps maintain the illusion that you both need to use the mic. And as long as you're not using a hypercardioid mic, that should work fine. One of the trickiest things to remember is that your puppet should be reacting to what you say, and you should be reacting to what your puppet says. You are functioning as two personalities simultaneously, and you don't get a break, because you're always speaking for one personality while reacting as the other personality. It can be very difficult to keep that going mentally. Finally, I should mention that if you're using a full-body hand puppet, it's a really good idea to not put the puppet on and off in front of the audience if possible. To be honest, it's a bit disconcerting for the audience to watch you stick your hand up the puppet's butt. You probably can't assume that you'll always be in a venue where there is a curtain or a backstage area where you can conveniently hide from the audience while putting the puppet on. My solution, I built a portable and collapsible stage curtain that fits in most venues. The frame of it is made of PVC pipe and joints formed into 6 rectangles. These rectangles are strapped together with heavy strips of cloth and some Velcro. Over the whole structure, a curtain is hung. When I'm tearing it down, the top half of the stage can be separated from the bottom half, so it will fit in the trunk of the car. I think I've covered enough for today. Next time I'll talk about developing the personality and voice of your puppet. While you're waiting, remember, if you have a question about ventriloquism, like, is it hard to sing without moving your lips? Ask your question in the comments below, and see you next time.